me maybe start by one of the not so obvious ones. Let's start with arts and creative industries. First of all, we have dedicated during this AI week a whole weekend to this topic of AI and art and culture. We have had both wonderful creations showcased by artists, but also discussions about the challenges that lie between AI and creation, because it's not always something that comes as the first example of benefits of AI. With us today we have Pharrell Williams. We're delighted to have you here. You're an extraordinarily creative artist, and so who better than you could share a few thoughts about AI and creativity? Pharrell, please.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I don't know how you guys do this with the thing in the ear. The benefits for me are very different than what we often hear discussed when people reference AI. Most of the time when we hear about AI, we hear mostly fears. It's going to take our jobs, it's going to take your job, it's going to take this, it's going to take that. And it's interesting to me because, you know, as we think about the preparedness for AI, we're worried about what it's going to do, but you have to remember who and what is going to be using it and for what reasons. People will need to use AI. They're going to need jobs. There will be jobs there for them. Will there be some jobs that people lose? Sure. But I think if you're gonna be prepared for AI, then you have to be prepared for AI. Me personally, I see it like I think we have our fears miscasted in the wrong areas. Like, I don't think we should be fearful of what AI is going to do. What we should do, you know, in this whole AI race, what we need to remember is the human race. Because it's humans that are essentially going to be using the AI, and it's what they're going to do. You know, are they people with good conduct or bad conduct? Are they people with great ideas, inspiration, and innovation, or is it criminals? Right? I think we need to work on ourselves. And I think if we can get ourselves in a good place, humming like an engine, then when AI really truly penetrates regular everyday society and community lives, I think it's going to be fine, because people will have the right ideas about how we use it. In my opinion, you know, it's just like alcohol or a car or firearms. Believe it or not, it takes responsibility. Alcohol in the wrong in the wrong hands is a problem. A car in the hands of someone who is too young and inexperienced to drive it could be life-threatening. AI is no different. It's who's using it and what the intention is what I think we need to think about first and foremost.
Do you use AI for some of to help you create, or do you just use it in daily life, or do you just not use it?
Well, that's the other thing too. You know, people talk about like creatives using AI. We wouldn't use AI to help us write a song. Well, then what would we do? Right? AI is much more like worker bee, minutia are the ways that we would use it. Other people would use it in a computational way, you know, in some lab or, you know, maybe an organization set up in some sort of, with tech, would use it in a completely different way. But the way that we would use it would be much more like utility. It wouldn't replace creativity. I just think that there's just too much fear around it. And, you know, there was a whole thing around the year 2000 as well, but we're fine. We survived that. Or, you know, in my country they call it libraries. Here it's called a bibliothèque. It's still there. You can go visit it. It's not replaced. It's a beautiful place to walk around in, and you can research. But there's nothing like a search engine, right, Sundar? There's nothing like a beautiful place where you can go and search. But this is the next step. This is the place where you can not only ask questions, but you can get examples back. I think that's an amazing thing, and I think there's nothing to be fearful about. It's just, we just have to be prepared. Just don't treat it the way we did when we brought alcohol into the conversation, or how we did cars. We need to treat this a little bit different. This is a great opportunity for us as a species to move forward with utility.
Well, thank you. I think we've heard over the years lots of comparisons for AI, but alcohol is one that I hadn't heard. So, but I take great comfort from your vision, which is really of AI augmenting artists and your job. Maybe I can ask a question of Sundar Pichai. We're delighted to have you here. I've heard you speak about risks of AI, but also about the way it can help augment communities, for example. So what are your thoughts on this and on the opportunities and how we can unlock them in AI?
First of all, thank you, President Macron, Prime Minister Modi. It's great we are having a conversation on such an important topic. Look, at Google, we have felt this important tension, both the wonderful opportunities AI presents. It's obviously a dual-use technology, like you gave examples, and so the risks that come with it. So we actually encapsulated this tension as, a bold and responsible, that our approach needs to be both bold and responsible, and there is tension between it, but we grapple with it. The reason we need to be bold is, it is so obvious as we are making progress, how profoundly it'll impact many areas. The best example I can think of is with AlphaFold, we've now unlocked, how to decode protein structures. Just so that everyone understands, it used to take one person their entire PhD to do one protein. And within 3 months, AlphaFold unlocked over 200 million protein structures. Now it's an open database, and already we see hundreds of thousands of researchers and biologists using it to develop vaccines, etc. So you can so tangibly feel the impact of progress. So you feel a moral imperative to be bold and accelerate progress there, right? And when it comes to the economy, it's very clear that you'll be unlocking more productivity. And I do worry people who don't adopt it, countries which don't embrace it, can get left behind through this crucial moment. So those are all the opportunities we see, and we want to lean in to drive that progress. Obviously, as Pharrell mentioned, it's a technology with dual use, and how do you make sure the bad effects don't propagate? Examples where we are working on, we slow down and think about image generation or video generation. It will both unleash creativity in the tools of artists and so on, but people can use it to create deep fakes. So we are early on working on technology like SynthID, watermarking technology. We will need standards, and those are areas where governments and private companies can work together to create a standardized way to detect deep fakes, right? And so you have to take that balance as we move through this, and we embrace it. We cherish the tension, we debate it, and we all need to do that more, I think.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for highlighting the area of AI and science, where really, first of all, of course, the AlphaFold is absolutely fascinating and led to a Nobel Prize or Nobel Prizes, which is really impressive. But yeah, what you said about also being mindful about standards and tools and open source tools for open science, I think, is particularly important. Maybe let me come back to you in terms of this technology which has an impact around the world. Do you see a challenge in potentially having this opportunity developing more in developed markets, in Western economies, and maybe not around the world? Do you have any thoughts on whether you have fears about that and whether you could see a need for action in this direction?
You know, first of all, I never got a chance to say thank you for having me here, so thank you guys, and it's nice to be here. I just think that we need to stop using the word fears. Like, I just don't think it's good for the progression of just our species. It's just not really done well for us.
Calling this unlocking opportunities.
Yes.
We're on opportunity.
Yes, it's, you know, listen, there's one thing for us to be concerned, but not for us to be fearful. You know, it's a utility, and it can make life, and it's also an accelerator. It can make life a whole lot better, a whole lot quicker. But it depends on who's using it as to whether it goes bad quicker. You know, for me, I feel like this is something that the world needs, but I think we need to be ready with ourselves before we fully engage. I don't think that it's about the jobs being lost. I think it's about perspective, and I think it's about what our intentions are. You know, what are you going to do with it when you use it? And we're trying to help people understand. But again, this has been created by brilliant code writers who probably shouldn't be the ones communicating about what it's going to do and what it's going to be.
That's
because,
a good point.
You know, in their minds, it's like, they're going to take your jobs. Well, the average person hears that, and it freaks them out. But this is no different than, like I said, search engines being created. There was this whole thing on how libraries are going to be burned down, and, you know, they were not going to use them anymore. And that's not what's happened. What's happened is search engines make things a whole lot easier. People got answers a lot quicker. Well, now you're going to be able to get renderings and ideas and examples a lot quicker. Sure, it's going to be more than that, but I think for the average human being, that'll be the way that they interact. It will help them accelerate, get answers quicker, be more efficient. That's the average person. Now, on the Silk Road, we're going to have some problems.
Well, thank you. I love your comparison of the library. I think the other night at dinner, someone from a distinguished university said universities have been one of the longest standing institutions of humanity that still exists today, and I think it's the same for libraries.
Sure,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Maybe Sunar, on this topic of opportunities and different perceptions around the world, what do you see as short-term or mid-term opportunities from AI? Let's say not 10 years, we don't know what AI will be in 10 years, but and maybe not what we know today, but 2 to 4 years from now, and around the world, what do you see as opportunities and ways to make sure they become reality, if it's, in case it's not obvious that this happens just by itself?
Look, in a 2 to 4 year time frame, and thank you for, 10-year time frames are hard to predict, but in a 2 to 4 year time frame, maybe I'll highlight a key area which us and a few other companies are working on, which I think will really make progress. We call this agentic workflows. So anywhere you can describe a task in natural language, and the AI can act on your behalf and accomplish that. And so today, to give you an example, there are 2 examples within Google. We have a project Mariner. It's a browser extension. So the browser can actually go browse and do things for you, complete and come back. If you look at where the state of the art was maybe a year ago, it was kind of roughly 50% effective. So you give it a complex sequence of tasks, it needs to get everything done accurately. Today, it's progressed to around 85%, right? And so, but that shows the progress. Similarly for coding, you know, as a software engineer at Google, today when you're programming, the AI is there on the side, it gives you suggestions and you accept it. But we are now working on where you can give it instructions, it'll automatically go and write the program and get it done. And so now imagine the impact of this agentic use cases working horizontally across many, many tasks. I think that's going to be very, very powerful. So the real promise of having an AI assistant in the context of anything you're doing, be it while learning something, a radiologist looking at images, a doctor engaging with a patient, all of that is going to be assisted, and it's going to deeply be embedded in your workflows. That is as real as it gets in a 2 to 4 year time frame. And you can imagine the impact from a productivity standpoint, and I think that's one of the most tangible opportunities. I think it's very, very real that it will happen.
Well, may I also say,
please go ahead.
Just to add on to what he was saying, you know, when I was, as you were speaking, it reminded me of, I'm a 70s baby. It reminded me of like a lot of the television shows that we grew up on the first 15, 20 years of my life. You know, there was a talking horse, there was a talking car, there's talking robots, and we loved them. And if you looked at the characters in all of these television shows and films, they loved them and they had a great time. And why were they having a great time? Why weren't they panicked? Because this was a part of their everyday lives. These things acted as utilities. Now, the horse was a horse, and it didn't know everything. But the cars and the robots that I remember, they knew everything. You could ask them anything. And I remember a lot of the protagonists, their lives being made a lot easier and a lot more convenient and efficient. And it's going to be no different than that. The things that we worry about, like I said, are the bad conductors.
Yeah, and we do get used to things once we've had them for a while. Excellent. I think this has been a very interesting discussion. I'd like to thank you both. I'd like to thank our previous speakers on this topic. Again, on this topic of unlocking opportunities, maybe going back to some of the remarks of Prime Minister Modi, we see all around the world people saying, we also want to be part of this. We want to be as ready as people in the US, in some of the European countries, in China. We also want to be part of that. And as such, we have had lots of discussions about how we can make sure open source, decentralized data can help create these decentralized innovation hubs. And to this effect, it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the stage Martin Tisney, CEO of AI Collaborative.
The way artificial intelligence is built and deployed today is shaping our societies, determining how we work, who has access to healthcare and education, and whether technology expands opportunity or deepens inequality. But too often, the public interest remains an afterthought. That's why I am proud to announce the launch of Current AI, a new chip dedicated to ensuring that artificial intelligence serves the public interest, that AI serves communities, strengthens economies, and expands opportunity for all. We are at a pivotal moment. The choices we make today will define the role AI plays in our societies for generations to come. We believe the answer lies in collaboration, bringing together governments, researchers, civil society organizations, and communities to make AI more open, more accountable, and more accessible. Public interest technology is both about preventing harm, and at the same time, it's about creating a better future. Imagine an organization using AI that helps oncologists provide tailored treatments to their cancer patients. Imagine AI as a spark for our children's imagination that fires up their creativity creativity rather than dulls it. These are the kinds of possibilities we unlock when AI serves the many, not just the few. Current AI will expand access to high-quality public and private data sets, will invest in open-source tools, and develop systems to assess and evaluate AI's social and environmental impacts. I invite all of you to join us in this effort, because the future of AI isn't something that happens to us. It's something we build together. Thank you.
That I would ask you all a question. I know you're heads of government and state, and so usually you don't play games like this, but I'm going to ask you to do it. And my question is something that was raised by Pharrell Williams. The question I'm going to ask you is, are you more fearful than hopeful about AI, or are you more hopeful than fearful? And I would like to see your hands raised. So the first question, which of you is more fearful than hopeful about AI? A room of optimists. One. Okay, and let's just check that everybody's awake. How many of you are more hopeful than fearful about AI? There you have it. A lot of people didn't answer, okay? So some of you are 50-50, I would imagine. Okay, so with that very optimistic audience, we go to the second session.
Do you want to try it?